Hi Krishna, very dear devotees. Welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Shatarane. So we are continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love. And this will be part 4. In this series of Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, once again, we're focusing on those things, those articles that awaken our dormant love for Krishna. For example, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the 26th chapter of Nectar Devotion how the gopis would meditate on Krishna dressing himself, just like a dancing actor, having a helmet with a peacock feather on it, wearing earrings on his ears, and yellow gold colored garments covered with pearls and jewels. And all these various articles intensified the remembrance of the Lord and thus their love for him. In other words, these things acted as a stimulus for ecstatic love. And there are many, many such articles that help to stimulate the Brajavasis' love for Krishna, and hopefully our love as well. And one of those is Krishna's stick. Krishna's stick, which we will discuss in detail today. Now the general name for a stick in Sanskrit is yasti. Y-A-S-T-I, yasti. And Sri Rupa Goswami describes Krishna's stick in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3.3.69. He writes, Yasti Sham Turi Has Toja Shva Nagra. Quote, Krishna's yasti, made of dark wood, is 3 cubits in length and is decorated with gold on both ends. Now another name for stick is lagudha, and one who holds such a stick is known as lagudi. I knew a devotee who had that name, Lagudi Das, in Australia. Very nice devotee. In Govinda Lilamrita 4:73 to 76, it describes how every morning Krishna is decorated by the servant gopis. It's written, the servant gopis of Nanda and Yashoda after his breakfast. And it's written there, quote, on the left side of Krishna's sash, they tuck in his buffalo horn. And on the right side, his Murali flute, which is studded with wonderful jewels. They place his laguda, his stick, in his left hand. And his play lotus, which lotus-eyed Krishna playfully twirls around, is in his right hand. So therein it's described that Krishna carries his stick in his left hand. Now, Rupa Goswami quotes a devotee named Sri Yogeshwara in his Padyavali, verse 153, that sometimes Krishna keeps his laguda, his stick, on his thigh, and he rests his hand upon it. He writes, Devadham ekajan kva lalita lagudhi murdhini bin yaste bahu. O Lord, you have your hands placed on top of the curved laguda that rests upon your thigh. Actually, we often quote Rupa Goswami. So often he gives us such transcendental details into Radha and Krishna Balaram and all the residents of Vrindavan. We're so much indebted to him. Actually, there's a beautiful prayer that I just discovered about Rupa Goswami. Sane Saraswati Rupam Vyasa Rupam Cha Shikshane Natye Bharata Rupam Tam Shri Rupam Prana Mayam Yaham. Quote, unto the personality who is Saraswati Rupa, the personification of Saraswati Devi in the domain of knowledge, Vyasa Rupa, the personification of Vyasadeva in the domain of teaching others, and Bharata Rupa. Bharata Rupa, the personification of Bharata Muni in the domain of dramaturgy. Dramaturgy means in drama. Unto that Shri Rupa, I pay my obeisances. Isn't that beautiful? This was composed recently and translated by my good friend Hari Parshad Das, Sanskrit scholar. Now, it's interesting that in the famous Balabhadra Sahasranam, the Balabhadra Sahasranam, which is the 1,000 names of Lord Balaram, which I found in Garga Samhita, Canto 8, Chapter 13. In verse 7, it's described that Lord Balaram is also a lagudi, one who carries a stick. He also carries a stick. It's written there, lagudi venu vadanaha. So Balaram also has a stick. Now actually, Krishna, because I did a lot of research, Krishna has a variety of sticks, not just one. Like he has, we discussed the other day, his flutes and mirrors. So there's different kinds of sticks as well. And one with a handle, a stick with a handle is called lati. And a crooked one is called bashki. And a straight and long one is called lakuti. And one embedded with gems and gold is called manoharini. Beautiful name, manoharini. And one that tilts from one side, that type of stick is called vakra, V-A-K-R-A, vakra. Another one, which is shaped like a snake, is called bhujasgini, bhujasgini. And one shaped like a capital T, is called shashcharini, shashcharini. Now you know the different types of sticks Krishna uses. And also I was reading that the tradition of holding a stick is actually a symbol of status in India, in Vedic culture. And you may remember in our series on historical Vrindavan, in one of the lectures we discuss how in Old Braj, a turban, a mustache, and a stick designated the status of a gentleman and his family. The gentleman, they would have turban, mustache, and stick. Now Krishna, he's not elderly, he's ever youthful, so he doesn't have a mustache, but he does wear a turban and he holds a stick in his hand. Now the first time that Krishna ever held a stick was actually on the day of Gopastami, when he took charge of herding cows. The acharyas say that Krishna herds cows with the help of 4 different things. His flute, his voice, because he uses his voice in different ways to call the cows. His blanket, it's called kamaria, K-A-M-A-R-I-A, kamaria, that's the name of his blanket. And the 4 things that he uses when he's herding cows, his stick. So 4 things. Now actually, there are many other ways that Krishna uses his stick or sticks. For example, I was reading that he uses the stick for resting his hands. He uses his stick, as we know, for breaking the pots of the gopis, which are filled with butter, curd, and Yamuna jal. He uses sticks for stick fighting with his cowherd friends. And I read he uses sticks for jumping over muddy puddles during the rainy season. And lastly, he uses sticks for stretching his limbs and arms after waking up from a nap in the forest. So many nectar details. Just about a stick. Nothing's ordinary what Krishna uses. It's extraordinary. I also read that one time Krishna gave one of his favorite sticks to Sri Radha, which it's described gave her the power to make herself invisible whenever her in-laws were searching for her. And she also embraces that favorite stick whenever she feels separation from Krishna. She embraces the stick. Now, a little side note here. Amongst Bengali devotees, there is a very interesting saying that Krishna, when he comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, hides everything about himself in Kali Yuga. He hides his dark complexion, he hides his flute. Mahaprabhu doesn't have a flute. He hides his Tribhanga form, he hides his peacock feathers. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't hide a stick, or his stick. So when Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he doesn't hide his stick, which he holds as his sannyas danda. Mahaprabhu has a sannyas danda. So when Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, many things are hidden, but not his stick. It's there in Mahaprabhu's pastimes as his danda. Such a beautiful, very sweet insight. Now, not only Krishna and Balaram carry sticks, but their cowherd boyfriends do as well. That's described several times in our scriptures. I found Srimad Bhagavatam 10:12:3. We hear that quote, "At that time, hundreds and thousands of cowherd boys came out of their respective homes in Brajabhumi and joined Krishna, keeping before them their hundreds and thousands of groups of cows. The boys were very beautiful, and they were equipped with lunch bags, bugles, flutes, and sticks, and sticks for controlling the calves." There's like sticks everywhere. I was reading that those gopas would tap the cows on their backs with the sticks to indicate a particular direction that the cows should go in. Often there was such a connection between the boys and the cows that the boys would simply tap the ground with their sticks, and the cows would know where to go. Talk about an intimate relationship. Gomata ki. The boys would also play with their sticks while, when they had their free time. They'd twirl them high in the air, and then they would catch them when they came back down. And they would even have contests. Who could do this the best? Now, when I read that, I remembered in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a pastime to commemorate this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu commemorated this particular pastime of stick twirling, along with Lord Nityananda, on one occasion in Jagannath Puri. They had a competition. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda had a competition who could twirl a stick and then throw it high in the air and then catch it very expertly when it came down. And guess who won? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he won. Because he could catch the stick within his legs. Wow. That's how he won. There two are twirling and catch. But Mahaprabhu won because he could catch the stick between his legs, which is something that it says Nitai couldn't do. Now, another way in which the boys used their sticks, as we mentioned it, was in fighting. And Rupa Goswami describes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3:86 that one of the ways of experiencing Sakyaras means friendship, like the boys' friendship. One of the ways of experiencing Sakyaras is the stick fighting between the cowherd boys. He writes, Laguda, Lagudi, Kriya. So, for stick fighting, the boys would actually break up into groups of two, and they would fight. Of course, it was, it's all keli, it's all playful fighting. But Sri Rupa Goswami explains at one point that as a result of these stick pastimes, the boys would often, that was going on, and boys are, at the end they would just collapse on the forest floor, exhausted in what? Blissful ecstasy. When you get exhausted in Krishna consciousness, not like material life. You're exhausted in blissful ecstasy. So that's what would happen with the boys that would fight. They just, after some time, they collapse on the forest floor in blissful ecstasy. In fact, he says, they were so absorbed in bliss that one time when it was time to get up and go home, Krishna forgot his stick that he had placed on the ground next to himself. He forgot it. And later in the day, when Krishna realized this, he was very upset. In fact, he and all the boys, they searched everywhere in the Vrindavan forest. They couldn't find that stick. They couldn't find Krishna's stick. So the acharyas say that since that day, no one has seen or found Krishna's stick, although many devotees have tried. Be a nice thing if you go on parikama to Vrindavan, I want to find that stick. Many devotees have tried, but no one has seen or found that stick that Krishna left on the ground after they had their stick fighting. Now the acharyas also say that because that stick enjoyed the bliss of Krishna's touch, just to look for that stick is an act of devotional service. Wow. Because that stick enjoyed the bliss of Krishna's touch, just to look for that stick is an act of devotional service. So, one day if you're in Vrindavan, you don't have anything to do, just walk around and look for the stick. That will be devotional service. Such is the nature of our beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. And interestingly, it's accepted amongst all sadhus and devotees in Vrindavan that whoever eventually finds that stick gets to keep it. Whoever finds that stick gets to keep it. Hare Krishna. So, I'm still in America. I'm in Austin, Texas, and we have a big program tonight, so I'm going to finish here. Been quite busy, but I can't neglect this duty to continue with our series every Friday somehow or other. So we'll finish today with the verse from one of my favorite poets, Rasa Khan. You remember Rasa Khan? We spoke about him extensively in one of our lectures on historical Vrindavan. So he writes a nice verse which we can conclude today. Ya lakuti aru kama riya par, raj titu lokan ko taji dharo. Quote, it's so nice. I will leave the pleasure of having 9 types of enjoyment and the 8 types of divine cities for gaining the pleasure of herding cows, the cows of Nanda Maharaj and his son Krishna. I will renounce thousands of royal palaces just to live in the thorny bushes and kunjas of Braj. I will renounce the kingdom of the 3 worlds for the shawl and the stick of Krishna. Poet Ras Khan says, when oh when will that day be mine? Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhus. We may be able to get one more class on sticks. I didn't actually finish my research because I've been busy here, but I'm going to do that. We may be able to have another class on sticks. It's a very important part of Krishna's paraphernalia, and so nectarian to discuss. So be back in 1 week next Friday. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shamasundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dhamma ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Sham. Glories to Prabhupada, the revealer